my article this Monday morning. It's about New York, the gift I've always said would keep on giving. And this morning, they've done a really good job of giving me easy, low-hanging fruit with which to cover, discuss, debate, and hopefully diatribe if I play my cup of coffee right. So, without further ado, this is Yarrow Kubrin. Good morning, Monday, October 7th. Without further ado, New York City. New York City Sheriff's deputies say weed crackdown is hampering domestic violence services. That's right. They said that with a straight face. Deputies in New York City Sheriff's Office who serve orders of protection or stay away orders on behalf of domestic violence victims say they are having trouble keeping up, citing staff shortages and the diversion of personnel to cannabis enforcement. Deputies who spoke to the Gothamist said they are supposed to make 3 attempts at different times of day to serve orders of protection, which require the recipient to stay away from the person they are accused of harassing or abusing, at least until the case can be heard in court. But the deputies say they are often only able to make 1 attempt because they lack the necessary personnel, and sometimes put off the initial attempts if they have other competing demands. Ingrid Simonovic, president of the New York City Deputy Sheriff's Association, raised concerns about orders of protection at a city council hearing last month on the city's cannabis enforcement effort. The sheriff's office is leading the crackdown in illegal cannabis shops, which has become a priority for both Miranda and indicted Mayor Eric Adams. We have received hundreds of complaints from New Yorkers demanding to know what's going on with their orders of protection, Simonik told lawmakers at the hearing. Since when does a cannabis shop closing take priority over safekeeping the lives of women who are victimized by domestic violence? 4 other deputies voiced the same concern in interviews with Gothamist, meaning they were all on the same talking points. They requested anonymity because they feared retaliation from Sheriff Anthony Miranda. Deputy sheriffs are required to follow all legal mandates with supervisors in place on multiple levels to ensure their responsibilities are being carried out properly. Ryan Lavis, a spokesman for the Department of Finance, which includes the sheriff's office, said in a statement emailed to Gothamist on Thursday. The deputies' concerns arise as Adams has celebrated Miranda for leading the effort to shut down more than 1,100 unlicensed weed stores since May. Deputies who spoke to the Gothamist expressed concerns about Miranda's focus on cannabis enforcement and emphasized that they have a wide range of other civil enforcement tasks to carry out, including executing evictions and transporting people to the hospital for court-ordered psychiatric assessment. Multiple deputies said their workload can be overwhelming. Oh, you mean you have a stressful job? Given the office's limited personnel. Overall, there are just under 200 employees currently working in the sheriff's office, and over 100 budgeted positions are unfilled. Oh, you have a hard time filling the unfilled positions? According to the agency. To address attrition and other staffing issues dating back to prior administrations, oh, you mean before legal cannabis? This administration has held a deputy sheriff's examination in April of 2023, the first since 2017, and we are anticipating a new class of approximately 90 recruits this fall. Lavis said in a statement. Remember, 90 recruits this fall means they're still below the 100 positions that are as of yet unfilled. But hey, let's blame cannabis. Only about 30 employees from the sheriff's office are assigned to cannabis enforcement. Oh, so you have 200 employees and 15% of them are related to cannabis work? Okay, I get it. But apparently that's going to cause domestic abuse issues to spike. So let's get back down into the numbers. So, only 30 employees in the sheriff's office are assigned to cannabis enforcement, Miranda said at the city council hearing. But deputies who are not specifically assigned to that operation say they are still sometimes directed to go inspect a shop, which pulls them away from other duties. Miranda sent a staff a memo addressing Simonovic's concerns at the city council hearing, which a sheriff's office employee shared with Gothamist. It is the position of the sheriff's office that all personnel have been compliant with the law, and the sheriff's office is not aware of any misconduct, Miranda wrote in the September 23rd memo. Due to the serious nature of the allegations, we are providing clarity that all legal requirements for the service of orders of protection are mandated to be followed. Miranda went on to say that in the memo that he had referred this matter to the Department of Investigations for immediate action. Diane Druzzy, a spokesperson for the city's Department of Investigation, confirmed that the sheriffs had referred to DOI concerns about the proper serving of orders of protection, and the DOI is reviewing that referral. Sheriff's deputies who spoke to the Gossamer said they had received directives in recent weeks to make 3 attempts to serve orders of protection, but they said it is still challenging due to staffing levels. Remember, they need 300 people. There are 200 people. That means they are at 66% of the staff that they're supposed to have. But of course, never mind that. It's Cannabis's fault. So it's still challenging due to staffing levels and Miranda's decision about how to distribute personnel. Simonovic said in a phone call to Gothamus that deputies prioritize orders of protection that require someone to be removed from their home. But she said sometimes other types of orders of protection get pushed to the last minute since they can be served up until the day before the scheduled court date. The Department of Investigation is also currently investigating the sheriff's office for allegedly failing to properly account for cash seized during cannabis raids. Oy vey, that's an old playbook, right? So before I hand this back to my other guest pundits and talking heads, let me just start by saying I'm going to use an analogy of my own analogy. I've often talked on this show about the way in which cannabis taxes are allocated towards causes that deserve to be funded no matter what, and that because those taxes are allocated towards good causes, it makes it harder to dismantle the onerous tax structure that is poised or is thrust upon regulated cannabis businesses. So I'm seeing similarities here, which is this idea that they're suggesting that limited staffing means they're having to choose between typically protecting women from domestic abuse versus shutting down the unlicensed bodegas. And the framing of that with a department that hasn't filled 33% of the positions that it is authorized to fill, and that still doesn't have a plan to get to that because they only have 90 cadets that are scheduled to come through in the fall. The idea that they have to choose between supporting a regulated cannabis industry, and frankly, we don't know that enforcement is actually the key to doing that, enforcement against unregulated businesses, or protecting the victims of domestic abuse, is a false paradigm that, in my opinion, is most likely being used to justify a request for increased funding to the department. So I think when you strip away the salacious nature of protecting women and children and making sure society is safe for those that need the safety of our police department, I think really what this is a cash grab. The request will come for more funding under the auspices that they have limited staffing, even if they haven't even filled the seats they're authorized to hire for. This is Yarrow Kubrin, High at 9 News. I'd like to hear what everybody else thinks and feels.
So you're telling me that there's only 30 officers that are designated for Operation Padlock, Yarrow?
I'm saying that there are only 30 officers whose duties include cannabis enforcement.
Yeah, that's Operation Padlock.
30 out of 300, but they only have 200 people. So what they're saying is, hey, we are at 66% capacity for the size of the team we're supposed to have. And even though we haven't been able to fill the other seats and we're 100 people short, we are going to blame the lack of unlimited bandwidth on the fact that we are enforcing against the illegal bodegas. And because we're enforcing against the illegal bodegas, the safety of women who are subject to domestic abuse is being lessened.
Well, the safety of women who have dealt with domestic abuse, as someone who has been through that, is the fact that the courts don't protect women and fucking children. So let's just go ahead and start looking at that. I'd love to see their conviction rates and people actually having to serve through sentences or do something other than an anger management class for beating the shit out of their wife on a Friday night. So let's stop throwing women and children in there for the reason why we can't do our jobs properly.
That's right. That's right. But since women and children are a category that most people at least profess to care about on paper, let's throw them in the mix so that we can justify asking for more funding to do our job, because apparently we can't do our job while we're trying to enforce against these bodegas. And
we care about women and children as far as their husband can throw them.
And not funny too soon, but still pretty on point. And when we have 100 officer positions that are unfilled, why don't we complain about something besides the fact that we don't have a full house, full staff, full team?
So I'm still confused by these numbers, bro. I don't know if these numbers are real. You're telling me that there's only 300 law enforcement officers on any one shift in New York City?
What the article says, and I am not an expert.
That just sounds really low to me, a really low number.
Maybe that's for Manhattan only?
Well, this is the sheriff's department, so maybe it's not the police department. So maybe this is a different department.
Okay, all right. That
NYPD.
Got it. So
and so according to the article, there's supposed to be 300 sheriffs, and there's only 200, and because those 200 are also helping with the enforcement against the illegal bodegas, those 200 who are supposed to be 300 are having a hard time also fulfilling their duties in respects to stay away orders, specifically on domestic violence victims.
This is interesting. The sheriff's department. Okay, that makes more sense. I was like, there's got to be way more cops for NYPD out there than 300.
Instead of Google, and they're saying about 10,000 NYPD.
Yeah, that I could see something like that.
But the sheriff is going to be smaller because you have to the whole county.
Yeah.
What's interesting to me is we've got this massive deficit of staffing in this department. They're 200 out of 300. If I was going to give you a grade and I was your middle school English teacher, 66% is a D, right? So they're getting a D in filling the roles that are available to fill. And according to the article, they haven't had a sheriff's examination since 2017.
A sheriff's examination, huh?
Which is the precursor to a new class of recruits. And so their most recent sheriff's examination was April of 2023. But they went from 2017 to 2023 without having one of those examinations. So that's about 6 years. So if I was doing something every 6 years when I was so drastically low on the number of staff on my team, I'm not sure that appears to be an aggressive attempt to fill those roles and have more men and women in blue providing the services that the sheriff's department provides across the spectrum of issues, whether it's domestic violence, bodegas, you name it. When you're only at 66% occupancy, you're fucking up. No way around that.
Interesting. I mean, I think a lot of this has to do with the low morale of people wanting to join into policing because of a lot of the whole defund the police and the fact that a lot of officers, when they make arrests, that the AG's office isn't making the prosecution, so they're just like, what's the point of doing all this?
Well, I think defund the police is a little bit of a false identifier for a term that got inadequately birthed 4 or 5 years ago to talk about a desire by the civilians to see a greater level of accountability within police departments across the country. And so it's something that I hear echoed by the right as continuing, because it was a crazy term for what it was actually intended to mean. Nobody was saying, don't give law enforcement the resources to do their job.
They were saying that. They were definitely saying that.
What they were really saying, and before it got hijacked by the Talking Point Society, was demilitarize the police. Which were saying, let's stop treating the police like a military, and let's stop briefing the police on the good guys versus the bad guys. Stop training the police in such a way that they see the entire polity that they're supposed to serve and protect as their enemy and the bad guys.
I think that's a very fair statement, Mathieu St. Germain.
On Twitter and on the air, most people have about a third grade education and can't deal with a subtle and or nuanced talking point such as, we should demilitarize the police. We should stop giving them these military vehicles that are basically used for foreign expeditionary wars, murder people who have RPGs, and setting them loose in our townships to drive through people's fucking buildings and escalate when they could de-escalate. What they really meant is, let's train the police further, de-escalation, compassionate outreach towards the people they are supposed to protect and serve. They're not just terrorizing people. They are actually protecting, serving people. And I think protect and serve isn't just the innocent, it's also the people who are transgressing the law. You should still be required to protect and serve those people.
You know what, Mathieu St. Germain? That might have been one of the best things that I've heard you ever say on this show.
Aw, thanks, Brother Jay.
Because I think that maybe the whole defund the police, they should have hired you to help work on their messaging campaign, because
It was a dumb fucking thing to say, and it's not what they meant.
Yeah, well, it is. To me, I think it is what they meant, because if their actions speak louder than words, and that's just what it is. But nonetheless, it doesn't matter. It's neither here nor there. I really liked what you said, and on that.
But there is one thing before you transition, which is that being in civil service is still a very noble profession. I think there are a lot of people who are still attracted to the stability that the opportunity to be line staff in law enforcement organizations provides them, the health care, as well as the money and the accolades and the overtime. And so I think it's just an unfair depiction only coming out of the right to suggest that this mutated term from 4 years ago is the reason why a sheriff's department can't fill 100 seats.
I think it is. I think it is why. I think that public perception and morale is super low. And when you got these neighborhoods thinking to hate the police all the time for everything, that's basically what it creates. And this is just a offshoot of those actions. There's a consequence of those actions. That's a stretch even the most adept yoga teacher couldn't achieve. Trust me, bro. I've been on my yoga game, bro. So you know what I mean. But I don't think that's a stretch at all.